He's just a kid, not a priority, my sister scoffed once, laughing as she scrolled through her phone. Dad said we can't keep running to hospitals every time your boy gets sick. Her words still echo in my head. Careless. The kind of cruelty you only hear from people who have never sat beside a hospital bed, counting breaths, praying that one more will come. Sometimes I wonder why the people who taught me family first never practiced it themselves. Hi everyone. My name is Arwa Hale, and I never knew silence could sound so loud, until the night my son's heart monitor beeped slower than usual. I remember gripping his tiny hand, whispering, "Mama's right here," while my phone buzzed with the message that split something inside me in a way no doctor could ever fix. Dad texted, "Can't visit your son in the hospital. We're dealing with some personal stuff." I replied, "I understand." I typed it with a shaking thumb. Why? A lie I told because begging them felt more humiliating than being ignored. But the room felt colder after that. Even the walls seemed disappointed in me. My son, my 7-year-old fighter with tired eyes and a smile too brave for his age, looked up at me from the bed. "Mama, they're not coming?" His voice cracked right through me. "I'm sure they're busy," I whispered, gently smoothing his hair, masking the storm building inside my chest. But 10 minutes later, life slapped me with the truth in the cruelest, brightest colors. A notification popped up on my lock screen. A tagged post. A restaurant booth. My entire family laughing. New toys lined across the table for my sister's kids. Dessert. A full celebration. Personal stuff. That's what my dad called it. The monitor beside me beeped. My son blinked slowly. His small fingers tugged mine as if asking again without words, "Why didn't they come?" I swallowed the truth. Because how do you explain abandonment to a child still learning multiplication? Instead, I looked at that glowing restaurant photo one more time. And something inside me went still. Not angry. Not broken. Just done. They hadn't just skipped a visit. They had chosen a party over my son's heartbeat. And that was the night I quietly decided I would shut down everything. The restaurant photo was still glowing on my screen when I finally set my phone down. Not face down, I didn't want to hide it. I wanted the truth out in the open, like a knife placed on the table, sharp and undeniable. My son shifted slightly, his fingers still wrapped around mine. The faint hospital light washed over his face, making him look even smaller than he was. "Mom, did they forget?" A single question. So soft. So innocent. So undeserving of the people who claimed to love him. I brushed his cheek. "No, sweetheart. They didn't forget." I paused. But they chose something else. His eyes lowered, the kind of sadness children shouldn't know. The kind that ages them too fast. I took a long breath, feeling something inside me click into place. Not rage, that burns out. Not heartbreak, that fades. This was colder. Clearer. A decision carved with silence. I stood up slowly, adjusting the blanket around him. "Sleep, baby. Mama's right here." When his breathing steadied, I pulled out my phone again. Not to check for messages because I already knew none would come. But to scroll deeper. More photos. More laughter. More gifts. My sister's kids holding brand new toys. The same ones my son had pointed at weeks ago and whispered, "Maybe Nana will get me one?" I felt myself exhale through my nose. A quiet, steady release. The kind that happens right before a storm chooses its path. They didn't know it yet. But this moment, this photo, this betrayal. It wasn't just another wound. It was the final permission I needed. I whispered to myself almost like a vow. Everything ends tonight. Every door they used to walk through. I'm closing it. I sat back down beside my son, letting the silence settle around us like a second blanket. The hospital hum, distant footsteps, muffled monitors, the soft click of a nurse's pen, all felt sharper now. Clearer. Like the world was suddenly showing me what I had refused to see for years. Family had become a habit, not a blessing. And habits can be broken. My phone vibrated again, but it wasn't them. Of course it wasn't. It was my bank's automated alert. Payment processed. $189.47. Toys and grocery items. My sister. Using the emergency card I paid for. The one meant for real emergencies, like tonight. I stared at the notification, my jaw tightening. They had no idea I saw everything. No idea I funded every outing they bragged about. No idea the card they swiped so carelessly came from my savings, my overtime shifts, my sleepless nights. And no idea that I could end all of it with a single tap. I opened the banking app, my thumb hovering over the lock card option. It was so simple. Too simple almost. Like a quiet button no one respects until it stops working. My son stirred, whispering, "Mama?" I leaned close. "I'm here, love." His fingers tightened around mine, grounding me. That was when the memory hit. The last time Dad visited. How he brought gifts for my sister's kids but handed my son a dollar store car missing a wheel. How he laughed. He won't know the difference. I remembered the look on my son's face. He did know the difference. He always did. I looked at him now, pale, fragile, trusting. And I finally pressed the button. Card locked. Account access disabled. Funds frozen. No ceremony. No warning. Just a quiet end. The first door closed. The moment the screen flashed, access disabled, something inside me settled. Not relief. Not triumph. Just a long overdue stillness, like finally exhaling after holding my breath for years. For the first time in a long time, the power wasn't in their hands. It was in mine. I slipped my phone into my bag, careful not to wake my son. His small chest rose and fell in slow, tired waves. The 4-line glimmered under the hospital light, each drip a reminder of why I was doing this. And yet, for a moment, guilt tried to creep in. A whisper. A hesitation. What if they get angry? What if they call you ungrateful? What if they play the victim again? But then I remembered earlier that week. How my sister joked with Dad right in front of me. Arwa's good with money. She'll cover it. She always does. As if I wasn't a person, just a wallet they didn't bother thanking. I remembered Dad's proud nod. Family helps family. Funny how that rule only applied when they needed something. A soft chime sounded, another alert. Transaction declined. Another. Card declined. And another. Access restricted. Contact account owner. They were still at the restaurant. Still swiping. Still assuming my life existed to fund theirs. A faint smile touched my lips, not spiteful, not cruel. Just tired. The kind of smile you offer the end of a chapter. But then my phone buzzed again. A message this time. From Dad. "Arwa, what's going on with the card? We're trying to pay the bill. Fix it." No, how's my grandson? No, is he breathing easier? Just the bill. I looked at the message for a long moment. No anger. Just a clear understanding of who they really were. I typed nothing. Because silence, I realized, speaks louder than begging ever did. And this silence was just beginning. I slipped my phone into my coat pocket, letting Dad's message sit there unanswered. A tiny, glowing reminder of where I stood in their world. Not as a daughter. Not as a mother fighting for her child. Just a financial convenience they expected to obey. The room felt colder now, but not the kind of cold that hurts. The kind that clears your head. My son stirred again, his lashes fluttering. "Mama, are they coming?" he whispered, half asleep, half hopeful. I felt something tighten in my throat. A part of me wanted to protect him from this truth forever. Another part of me knew he deserved better than lies. I brushed his forehead gently. "They're figuring things out," I said softly. Not a lie. Not the whole truth. Just enough to keep his heart steady. Then my phone buzzed violently, 3, 4, 5 alerts in a row. "Dad, fix the card." "Sister, why is it declined?" "We need it now." "Mom, are you serious? This is embarrassing. Turn it back on." "Sister again." Arwa, stop being dramatic. Dramatic. A word they loved using whenever I stopped letting them exploit me. I didn't reply. I simply watched the message bubbles fill the screen. Anger, entitlement, confusion. Like children banging on a locked door they never expected to close. Another alert. This one different. Your bank account password was attempted multiple times. Access denied. I smiled a little. Of course they tried. They always pushed the moment they lost control. I sat back in the hospital chair, exhaling steadily. Their panic felt distant. Muted. Irrelevant to the world inside this room. The world that actually mattered. My son's monitor beeped softly. His breathing steadied. He looked peaceful for the first time that night. And in that quiet moment I realized. I wasn't shutting them out of my life. I was finally letting the truth in. They chose the restaurant. They chose the toys. They chose each other. Now I was choosing us, me and my son. And this time there would be consequences they couldn't laugh through. The message barrage didn't stop. If anything, it grew more frantic, like they finally realized the ground beneath them wasn't solid anymore. Funny how people who never showed up for you suddenly remember your number when their comfort is threatened. I muted the phone. Not out of spite. Out of peace. For once, their noise didn't belong in this room. A nurse came in to check my son's vitals. She adjusted his smiled softly and whispered, "He's stabilizing. You're doing great, Mom." Her kindness felt like warm light in a very cold world. When she left, I sank deeper into the chair, watching my son's fingers twitch in his sleep. Tiny movements, but enough to remind me why I had drawn this line. My family didn't deserve access to our lives. Not to my home. Not to my finances. Not to my son's heart. And definitely not to the sacrifices they never once tried to understand. Another vibration. This time a voicemail. I didn't want to listen. But I pressed play anyway. Dad's voice, annoyed, not concerned. "Arwa, this is unacceptable. We're stuck here, everyone's staring. Turn the card back on and stop causing problems." Problems. To him, my son's hospital stay was never the emergency. The only emergency was their unpaid bill for a night of drinks and selfies. Then Mom's background voice cut through. "Tell her she's selfish. She knows we needed this night. Needed. A celebration. New toys. A restaurant booth lined with laughter that didn't have room for my child." I ended the voicemail. Silence settled again, this time deeper. Almost sacred. I reached into my bag, pulled out a small notebook and opened to a blank page. "From tonight forward," I wrote slowly, "no one enters our life without earning the right." Simple rule. A new boundary. A promise to myself. And just as I closed the notebook, my phone lit up with one final message. Different from the rest. From my sister. "Dad said if you don't fix this, you can forget being part of this family." I stared at it. And for the first time I didn't feel fear. I felt freedom. I stared at my sister's message. "You can forget being part of this family." 10 words meant to wound me. But instead they untied the last knot inside my chest. Because the truth hit me with quiet clarity. I had already been forgotten a long time ago. Forgotten at birthdays. Forgotten at holidays. Forgotten at doctor visits. Forgotten every time my son needed a hand to hold and they chose convenience, comfort and celebration instead. They weren't threatening to remove me. They were simply naming what they had already done. I placed the phone face up on my lap, not hiding anything anymore. The screen dimmed, but the decision it represented stayed bright in my mind. My son breathed softly, his small fingers still wrapped around my hand as if he knew. As if he could sense a shift in the air. I whispered to him even though he was asleep. "You and me, baby. We build our own family now." Felt like a vow. A quiet, steady promise made in a room that had seen enough tears for one lifetime. Then the phone rang. I let it ring. Then again. And again. Each ring sounded less powerful, less intimidating, like a king pounding on a throne that wasn't his anymore. They didn't know I had already changed every password. Had already removed their names from emergency contacts. Had already notified the bank that only I managed the card from now on. Everything they leaned on. Everything they depended on. Everything they treated as theirs. Was now locked behind walls they could no longer climb. The 7th ring stopped. Silence returned. Deep, clean, almost peaceful. Then a new notification appeared. "Dad, we're coming to the hospital. Don't make a scene." I read it once. Twice. A slow, calm breath left my chest. They weren't coming for my son. They were coming for control. And they were about to walk into a version of me they had never seen before. I stayed seated when their message came through. "We're coming to the hospital. Don't make a scene." Funny. They still believed I was the same Arwa who bent her voice, her spine, her entire life just to keep the peace. But peace without respect is just quiet humiliation. The hallway lights flickered softly as footsteps echoed closer. Hurried, irritated, entitled. I didn't need to look up to know it was them. Their presence always carried the same air. Expectation without effort. The door swung open. Mom entered first, face tight. Dad behind her, annoyed. My sister clutching her purse like the world owed her comfort. None of them looked at my son. Not once. Dad started. Arwa, you need to fix. I lifted one hand calmly. He froze mid-sentence. Not because he respected me, but because he wasn't used to being interrupted. You didn't come for him, I said softly. My voice didn't shake. Not this time. Not anymore. Mom scoffed. We explained. You lied. I cut in. You celebrated while he was hooked to monitors. You chose toys and drinks over your own grandson. Dad's jaw flexed. We had one night. Don't exaggerate. I stood slowly, the chair legs scraping the floor, a sound sharper than shouting. I'm done funding your nights. Your bills. Your toys. Your life. Sister stepped forward. You can't just freeze everything. I can, I said. And I did. Dad's face reddened. This is how you treat family. I looked at my sleeping son, the only person in this room who truly belonged to me. Then I met Dad's eyes with a calm he didn't expect. No, I whispered. This is how I protect my family. Silence. Raw. Heavy. Unavoidable. I walked to the door, opened it and stepped aside. You may leave, I said. Simple. Final. One by one they walked out, not a word, not a glance back. When the door clicked shut, the room felt warm again. Peaceful. Hours. I sat beside my son, took his little hand and breathed. For the first time I felt free.